And ultimately that's basically, 𝗩𝗡𝗢𝗔𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗦. Can I find somebody else to buy this Dogecoin? Keep sort of trying to prop up that token and there's nothing behind it and it'll fall. Whereas if you look at Berkshire Hathaway and Buffett and Munger built that company acquisition by acquisition, company by company, piece by piece. That's something that, I'm trying to do. Whether Druglike is the big win, Gödel is the big win, or a third piece of software is the big win, I do think that I'm going to create some software that's really valuable and really quality. And if you look at the other competitors out there, they're really bad because they're not built by people who have been traders or investors. All right, so let's talk about my software companies. As you guys know, about 4 or 5 months ago, I want to say 4 months ago, we revealed druglike.com. So this is an application that allows you to calculate the free energy of molecular ensembles. So I think there's this impression that it's only related to pharmaceuticals, and the name certainly lends itself to that. But you can use Druglike on agricultural compounds, cosmetics, food, any molecular ensembles. Really all it is a calculator. It doesn't design a medicine for you or anything like that. This is something where you supply a compound, you supply another compound, and we calculate very quickly, and for the first time on the web, what the free energy of those two compounds are. So far, 2.5 million compounds have been screened over 787 campaigns. We haven't promoted Druglike at all. So we have a sort of promotion campaign scheduled for next year. I did a 1 million compound screen on PARP1, which is a cancer-related target. And so that was really cool. I have a screenshot of that there, 948,000 compounds with a lot of really good hits. We are expanding the software. This isn't meant to be a deep dive on Druglike by any means, but the software is growing in its modularity and the ability to change out the drug or the molecular screening engine that analyzes the what's typically the drug and the protein, but could be anything. It could be an animal's protein, it could be a bacterial protein, etc. A viral protein, of course, as well. So being able to switch out those tools and do new things with different engines and different pipelines is something that I know my colleagues at Druglike are working hard on creating. I think the general thesis of Druglike, and it's going to go into App 2 as well, is that the software that people use in this very high-touch professional setting like computational chemistry is very hard to use. A lot of them are command line based, so a lot of them require you to know how to be a sysadmin, know how to use Linux, know how to use really complex tools that the average chemist or the average, say, physicist or whatever doesn't know how to use. They're busy being a chemist or a physicist. They're busy writing papers. They don't want to configure systems. And now just using that software on your own PC is very difficult. There's a 100-page manual on a software that I use called NAMD, which is a molecular dynamics wizard. It's command line only, so it has to run in a terminal box. And the 100-page manual says that it runs in MS-DOS. Yeah, so good luck configuring that and getting it to work in a distributed system like a cloud system. So we took all that and we put it on the web. And I think what I want to do is do that for every single kind of professional software that's really difficult to use. It doesn't mean that command line should be abolished. You should be able to pop into a command line if you're a power user, but you should also be able to access all the rich computing environment that the web and distributed Kubernetes, and Dockerized clusters allow you to exploit. So this software uses MSI for payment. It also is going to be using Stripe shortly. So you can use a credit card if you're a corporate account, or you can use crypto. The crypto is half price roughly. So deep discount for crypto users. So that's where I think a lot of companies should be creating a token and using it as a monetization platform. It's another way to get paid as a software provider. So I think Microsoft should have their own token, Adobe should have their own token. I think eventually that's probably what we're going to see. And to have these tokens not be necessarily units of speculation, although they could be, but they're also units of value for that internal company's ecosystem. It's a secondary tool for compensation, for equity. For example, Facebook once paid a graffiti artist shares of Facebook to spray paint the Facebook walls. And I think that's a really good example of here's a young company, they're growing, they don't necessarily want to use cash, they have some cash, but they want to use that for their business, but they really want this graffiti spray painted on their wall. And so they paid the guy in Facebook stock, and I think he made $100 million holding onto his Facebook stock. So it's sort of a secondary unit of value that companies can use for a number of things. And for Druglike, it has a number of values. It's MSI, it's an ERC20 token, and it's got a telegram and all that if you want to look into it. But ultimately, there are a number of ways that you can use MSI with Druglike. The primary way we view is payments. Eventually, we hope to have a distributed compute network where you can earn MSI for computing, or you can pay MSI to have compute done. That's sort of a pretty classical way of thinking about sort of one of the values of crypto. There's been a lot of good progress on the app. It works really well. But today previewing app 2. So app 2 is a financial application. It was originally called Gödel. So I worked on this app 5 or 6 years ago. It's a competitor to a company called Bloomberg. So basically it's a CLI, a command line interpreter. So it's Bloomberg. If you haven't used it, it's a very expensive piece of software. It's $25,000 a year, and the price is actually going up. It'll be more expensive than that soon. And it's sort of the standard for financial investors if you can afford it. About 400,000 people use the Bloomberg. Pretty much anybody who's anybody on Wall Street has a license to it. But it hasn't really changed a lot in the last 5, 10, even 20 years. I've been a Bloomberg customer since I was a kid. And I basically started to create this app called Gödel before I went to prison. So now that I'm out of prison, what's amazing about Gödel is that it's still a best-in-class product in my view. And there's a free tier of Gödel, which basically gives you access to what I believe is a substantial part of the Bloomberg totally for free, and on a web tool. So you just go to Gödel's website and you can use a Bloomberg tool basically for free. Now we do have a payment model, and it's sort of a different payment model than Bloomberg. Bloomberg has this weird all-you-can-eat model where you pay one price, which, like I said, is around $2,000 or $3,000 a month, and you get all the services, whether you use it or not. So a person that's just using Bloomberg for messaging, and I know a lot of people that's all they do, still pays the same price as a person that's running their entire hedge fund on Bloomberg. And to me, that's a really wild sort of dichotomy. Our model is more of an AWS model where there's a free tier. If you use the service a lot, you get a big bill. If you don't use the service much, you get a small bill, and you can use the service pretty liberally for free. So if you use really advanced features like quantitative features or bond research or something like that, you will get a bill similar to the Bloomberg bill. But if you're just looking at stock prices and fiddling around and you're sort of an amateur investor, I think that you should be able to get a tool like this for free. And so that's sort of our vision. So in any event, I'm restarting the development of that app. We should have a beta open relatively soon. There is an alpha sort of site up right now. I've been hacking away at it with some of my colleagues over the last few weeks. If you've been wondering where I was, that's basically what I've been up to. So for MSI, I think the application is the same. If you have a $1,000 or $500 or $20 bill on Gödel, you can pay using MSI and get a steep discount. If you create content for MSI, and I think that's a big part of what Bloomberg is missing, is a social media sort of aspect. We don't want to turn sort of Bloomberg into Facebook. I think that would be a mistake. But I do think that a big part of why Wall Street Bets, for example, was successful, or other parts of sort of FinTwit and things like that, is that people do want to create content for financial markets. I should say financial markets are full of people who are offering opinions and creating content, whether they're charts or other forms of content, including subscription-based models and stuff like that. So if you create content on Twitter, you don't get paid anything. And I could see a vision where you could create content for on Gödel and get MSI tokens as a result. You could also pay MSI tokens to get content. So again, the primary goal here would be that you can pay your bill for the tool with MSI. So in any event, I think this will be a really important app. I think you guys know that I know financial markets really well. I know financial software really well. This is my world. So for me to unleash a competitor at Bloomberg is a really big moment. I do think it'll take years to effectively compete with Bloomberg. It's not a company that is easy to compete with. They've been around a really long time. I think a lot of the mistakes that other companies have made trying to compete with Bloomberg is that they don't match the CLI. I'm specifically focused on replicating, in a lot of ways, the CLI nature of Bloomberg. And so we've done that with sort of a synthetic CLI based on the web. So I think that CLI tool allows any user to really learn it quickly. It's sort of a light CLI. It's not like Linux. It's a much friendlier command line. And so I think that, that's basically sort of the key. I think there are a lot of competitors trying to do web apps for financial information, but that's not, what people want. People on Wall Street want productivity, and they want to climb up the curve really quickly. And if you look at the other competitors out there in financial apps, they're really bad because they're not built by people who have been traders or investors. They don't understand the importance. I was on a rival site the other day, and they had literally no news function whatsoever. News is, for example, one of the most pivotal and important pieces for any financial investor. So I understand the space better than anyone. I understand it better than people at Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg was a trader a long time ago, and so it made sense for him to build Bloomberg. For me, it makes a lot of sense to build an app that I would use myself to trade or invest with. So I hope you follow me on the Gödel journey. I'll be talking a lot about it. I'll be using the software, and again, I'll be ready to sort of show it to you in hopefully a week or two. Will be free to use for the general public right away. I think it'll probably be more of a closed beta for a month or two. We did get a lot of beta feedback, but that was years ago. So I think I'd like to do another closed beta experience. I think time has shown that that's a good idea. I do think Druglike's name will change because you sort of have two software applications now under one company. One is a computational chemistry company. And I think, again, there was a lot of confusion about that software just being used for pharmaceuticals. And I think that name needs to sort of change to help people understand that it's not a pharmaceutical software only. It's certainly not a pharmaceutical company, as some people have crazily suggested. How do you get a list on beta testers? You'll be able to sort of do that in short order. If you stay tuned, I'm sure you'll get a chance to sign up. Are you using the lean approach in the Gödel project? Are you talking about Agile? If so, then yeah, we're an Agile organization like everybody. Discord is discord.gg/Martin Shkreli. What do you think of CBDCs and the regulations? I do think money, as I said earlier, money as technology is sort of needs substantial improvement. And to the extent CBDCs allow for that improvement, I think that's a good thing. Nevertheless, you're still dealing with government money, which is sort of one of the risks that comes with CBDCs. And in some ways, I'm not sure that we can excise government out of a lot of what we do. I think, I'm a libertarian, and I'm a staunch libertarian. I went to jail for my views, many people would say. So if anybody wants government out of money or out of our lives, it's me. But I just don't see necessarily a great path to do that. Somebody asked me about the MSI token itself. So the MSI token was created by a third party, and I've sort of adopted it as a token I'll use in the software that I create. And I think it's really valuable to distinguish the goals of sort of the software company itself, which are just to create profit and to make great software and just use the best technologies possible. To me, crypto is one of the best technologies. The question is, how to implement it. And I think crypto as a payments method, and like I said, sort of an alternative source of payments in addition to fiat, is something that's really, really valuable. I don't love the speculative portion of it, but I do think it allows people to sort of use a software that they like and also sort of benefit if that software's use increases. So obviously for MSI, I hope that its value increases, and I'm going to try to use it as effectively and, as much as I can in all the software I create. But ultimately, what I don't want to see happen is the speculation of something overtake the utility of something. And you can't control that because it's a market, right? But what you don't want is sort of, and this is sort of what happens in the stock market too, is you don't want your stock to sort of get ahead of itself. And people who have that problem might think, oh, my stock's so high, that's a good thing. But it really isn't, because you end up having to deliver on something that you can't deliver on. So to me, I think what's important for MSI is that it serves as a useful token to pay for software that hopefully will be really, really good. But the focus is on making the software really good, not making the token promotional or something like that. I think people that promote tokens and things like that will end up in prison or, or in trouble with government, or, and certainly at the end of the day, their token prices will drop to nothing. And I'm trying to create something that has lasting value. And that's principally the software itself, but also the token too. Yeah, I'm excited about it all. It's just a question of, delivering on the software, which is not easy. It's really, really hard to build quality software. If you've ever worked in a sort of enterprise software setting, it's a lot of work with really smart people, and it costs a lot of money. And, it's already hard to do that. I think that there are a lot of meme coins and things like that people try to sort of make work by promoting. And ultimately that's basically, 𝗠𝗔𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗦, right? I mean, it's can I find somebody else to buy this Dogecoin? And you keep sort of trying to prop up that token, and there's nothing behind it, and it'll fall. Whereas if you look at Berkshire Hathaway, it's the exact opposite, right? It became one of the world's biggest companies, about 500 billion market cap. And Buffett and Munger built that company acquisition by acquisition, company by company, piece by piece. And I think that that's something that, I'm trying to do. Whether Druglike is the big win, Gödel is the big win, or a third piece of software is the big win, I do think that I'm going to create some software that's really valuable and really quality. And hopefully that will also benefit MSI as well. But I think that's the most important thing, is focusing on great software.